Well, growing up, Mandy Hale wanted to be married by the time she was 25, but that ship sailed a long time ago. And while she's not happily married yet, Mandy says it's just as well because she's happily single.
Maybe you've even been dating someone for a while.
Mandy Hale says being happily single doesn't mean you've given up on finding your happy ending.
He vanishes.
In 2010, Mandy was single again after she and her boyfriend broke up. In the bookstore, there were many books with advice on how to date a man, land him, and keep him. But there was nothing about celebrating being single. Mandy's book, The Single Woman, is filled with funny stories and witty advice and helps single women choose to be happy, with or without the ever after.
Mandy Hale is with us now, and she's the author of the new book, The Single Woman, which also happens to be her Twitter handle. And Mandy, welcome to the 700
Thank
Club.
you
From
so
one
much.
single woman to another.
Thank you. It's an honor.
Well, Mandy, you're in your 30s,
I am.
and you're single, so what's wrong with you?
I think, okay, you have to tilt your head a little bit more and look a little bit more, you know, what's wrong with you? Don't you love that question?
I know. I mean, well, it's sort of implied. And of course, I can
Yeah.
ask that when I saw the producers wrote that question, I'm like, hey, if there's something wrong with her, there's something wrong with me,
But
too.
it is one of the its biggest questions that you get, even if people don't say it verbally, you know that secretly it's
know
what
they're
they're
thinking
thinking.
it.
And my answer to that is, actually, there's something really right with you, and that you are willing to hold out for the best and not settle for anything less.
No, that's right. Now, you are single by choice, and it's not because you don't want to be married, but you've had some pretty disastrous, maybe too strong of a word, but you've had some pretty bad relationships. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I have. A lot of them are actually quite humorous, which I talk about in my book. I love to take everything that I go through and, you know, extract the lesson from it and share it with my readers so they can avoid some of the same pitfalls. The relationship I was in right before I created The Single Woman was actually a very unhealthy relationship. Was not a God-centered relationship, and thankfully he delivered me from it, and I, you know, really just put me on a very positive path. And it was on that path that I really wanted to start encouraging other women who were in the same position, in the same place in their lives that I'm in. So that's where that came about.
I was reading that when you found yourself single again, you went looking for answers in books about how to be happily single, and there weren't any.
Yeah. I mean, books and movies and pop culture and the news, and even our churches don't always know what to do with our singles once you've graduated college. So
They really don't, do they?
yeah, I mean, it's like, oh, well, where do I belong? You're preparing us for marriage, and that's great, but what about just preparing us for a really amazing life?
Yeah. Now, it's certainly not as bad as it used to be, thank goodness, but why do you think there's still a stigma attached to being single?
Well, I think particularly, you know, I'm from Tennessee. I grew up in the South, and I think everybody's just kind of expecting you to, once you graduate college, to get married, settle down, 2.5 kids, picket fence. And when you don't do that, it's sort of a break from the norm, and people don't really know what to do with you. They don't know what to make of you. So I feel like that people, they don't really, it's kind of just the world as a whole doesn't really know what to do with our singles. And so that's what I've tried to do. I've tried to give single women a place to come and feel like they belong and like they're empowered and like they're just being celebrated for who they are in this moment instead of always preparing for the next.
Now, Mandy, you're not saying that you're kissing dating goodbye at all.
No.
But you're saying that it's possible to be happily single. How do you do it, though? How do you do that? Because I know I have a lot of friends, and it's a struggle. It's a struggle for them. They want to be married.
Right, and I definitely want to be married someday too, but I think it's just all about realizing that you have a God-given purpose and a destiny that is so much bigger than your relationship status. And that if you are single for now or single for life, it's because God has a specific mission and a purpose that he wants for you to accomplish on your own, or maybe someday when someone joins you on your path, that's great too. But as long as you're in this moment as a single woman, just loving yourself, thriving where you're at, deciding that you are going to live as big and bold and brave of a life as you can, regardless of whether you're flying solo or not.
Now, how is being happily single a precursor to being happily taken?
I think it's all about realizing that your self-worth and your value is really based on what's inside you and not in who's standing beside you. And I think I've heard quotes that talk about your married life can only be as successful as your single life. And so I think if you really just work on, as a single person, becoming all the things that you hope to attract in another person, you can't go wrong.
And Mandy, I love what you said. You said stop looking for your hero and become your own hero. How do you do that?
I think that, you know, I'm such a fan of the fairy tales and the happily ever after, but I think that it's kind of, you know, ingrained in us that we're supposed to be, you know, rescued from our lives and that we're waiting on this Prince Charming to ride up on a white horse. And really the heart of my message is realizing that living happily ever after is all about building a life that's so wonderful that you don't want to be rescued from it. So
Wow,
I think that it's all about just creating your own happiness and allowing someone else to come along and complement that, and not to complete you, because you're already complete. You're already all the things that you want to be. You just have to tap into it.
Yeah, but I mean, let's face it, being in love is a great feeling.
Absolutely.
Is there
Absolutely.
anybody on your radar right now?
There's not, but I can actually announce, I'm very excited that I'm going to be partnering with Christian Mingle, and I've never tried online dating, so everybody keep your fingers crossed. I'm nervous, but I've heard wonderful things about it. I'm going to be trying online dating with them and writing about my experiences, the good, the bad, the ugly, and I'm so excited because it's something I've never done, and it's a new adventure, and Christian Mingle is the perfect organization to partner with. So everybody stay tuned to thesinglewoman.net, because it's going to get really interesting.
Absolutely. That'll be fun to follow. Now, you've also said that God has our backs enough to show us the signs, but a lot of times we choose to ignore the red flags. And I, for one, can answer the question why we ignore the red flags, because we want to be in that relationship so much. We want it to work, and we want the fairy tale, and we don't want to believe, you know, but you said we've got to pay attention to the red flags.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, somebody gave me a really great analogy one time. They said, you know, it takes only one stop sign for us to stop our car. So why does it take multiple red flags for us to stop a relationship? And I think that that's just brilliant, because a red flag is always a sign of construction up ahead, and it is not it's not your job or my job to repair people or fix people. Only God can do that. So, yes.
Mandy, I wish we had more time. Well, Mandy, thanks so much for being here.
Thank
Such an inspiration. And for more great bits of advice, you can follow her Twitter page. I'm already following you on Twitter. It's at The Single Woman. That's her handle. And don't forget her book. It's called The Single Woman, Life, Love, and a Dash of Sass. And it's available in stores nationwide. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you.
God bless you.